Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today into digital transformation with this book, Rewired, the McKinsey Guide to Outcompeting in the Age of Digital and AI.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it came out this year, 2023.
Hmm.
And it's basically like, it's got, if you want to win in this business world,
Right.
digital and AI are changing everything.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a recipe book almost.
Yeah, who better to write it than McKinsey, right?
Exactly.
Three partners there, Eric Lamarre, Kate Smaje, and Rodney Zemmel.
They've seen it all.
They really have.
So one of the things that really jumped out at me at the beginning of this book
Yeah.
was this statistic they shared that companies that are using advanced analytics for insights
Uh-huh.
and using AI for decision making,
Yeah.
they are way outperforming their peers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. And that's really the point of the book.
Yeah.
Is that, like you were saying, it's a recipe for winning. And what they're really saying is, look, digital transformation is not optional anymore.
Right.
It's not something you can just decide, oh, we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
This is about survival at this point.
Right.
But even more than that,
Yeah.
it's about really thriving,
Yeah, you're not just keeping up with the competition, you're outpacing them.
Outpacing, absolutely.
Okay, so I get it. Digital transformation, very important. We need to be doing this, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, it feels a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even begin?
It's funny you should say that because they actually address that
Oh.
in the book.
Mm-hmm.
They break down this huge, undertaking into what they call domains.
Domain.
Domains. So instead of boiling the ocean,
Okay.
you're focusing on specific areas where digital and AI can really make the biggest impact.
So it's like choosing your battles.
Exactly.
So it's about being strategic about where you're going to get the biggest return on investment.
You got it. And I have this great example in chapter 2, a consumer packaged goods company. And what they did was they created this value versus feasibility matrix.
Okay.
So it's basically a roadmap that helps you figure out, like, okay, what are the areas where we can have a high impact, but that are also, actually doable for us?
So how do I figure that out for my business, though? Because it's like
Yeah.
giving me a treasure map, but I've got to figure out where to even put the treasure map down to start.
Absolutely. And that's, they can't answer that for every single person.
Right.
But what they're really saying is you need to look at your own business and say, okay, what are our most valuable assets? And how can we use digital transformation to unlock their full potential?
I love that. So, like, what are some questions that I should be asking myself as a business leader?
Well, it's going to be different for everyone.
Of course.
But some questions you could start with are, are there any processes that we could streamline?
Okay.
Could we use AI to improve our customer experience?
Right.
Are there ways that we can use data to make better decisions?
All right. So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
But it's not just about having a great strategy, right?
No.
You got to have the right people to actually put that strategy into action.
Couldn't agree more. And the book dedicates a whole section to talent.
Yeah.
Which I think is really smart.
Yeah.
Because so often people think about technology, but they don't think about the people who are actually going to be using it.
Yeah. And they actually quote Mark Andreessen in the book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, big name in venture capital.
Absolutely.
And, he was saying that you look at these companies like Tesla, the engineers who are working on like the self-driving cars, they're like the stars.
They're the leaders.
They are shaping the future.
That's right.
And that's really cool, I think, to think about,
Yeah,
because it's true.
it is.
Okay, so we get it. Talent is important. I think we all know that. But
Yeah.
how do you attract that top talent when you're competing with, Google and Amazon?
Yeah.
It feels impossible.
It's a huge challenge, but you know what? They actually get some really good advice in chapter 10.
Okay.
And what they basically say is, look, you're not going to become Google overnight, right?
Right, yeah.
So don't try to.
Okay.
Instead, what you need to do is focus on creating a company culture that tech talent is going to be drawn to.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So it's not just about ping pong tables and free snacks,
Okay.
although those are nice.
Right.
But it's about offering meaningful challenges. It's about giving people the opportunity to work with cutting-edge technology.
So they can learn and grow?
Exactly. And also giving them the chance to actually make a real impact.
I like that. So you're selling them on the work, the culture, and the potential.
Exactly. You want them to feel like this is the place where they can do their best work.
Right. And collaborate with other really smart people.
Yes, Absolutely. Because nobody wants to be the smartest person in the room.
Exactly. You want to be challenged.
Exactly. And you want to be learning and growing.
Okay, so you've got this A team now. You've attracted them to your company.
Yeah.
But now you've got to give them the tools and the structure to actually be successful.
Right. And that's where I think the idea of a digital factory comes
A
in.
digital factory. Okay.
Have you heard of this?
I have, but I'll be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical.
Okay, why?
Agile methodologies, great for startups. What
Yeah.
happens when you're a larger company
Right.
with hundreds of these teams, all working at the same time?
Okay, I get it. But they actually address that.
Oh, good.
They use an example of a global hospitality company with over 400 employees in their digital factory.
Wow, okay.
And they talk about how important it is to have a really clear structure
Yeah.
so that everyone's on the same page, even when you have all these different teams working on different things.
Okay, so it's like having a well-oiled machine, even if it's a massive machine.
Exactly. And they talk about, you need to have regular check-ins to make sure that everyone's aligned. They call these ceremonies.
Ceremonies.
Yeah, it's in chapter 13 if you want to look it up.
So I love this idea of a digital factory. You've got the team, the structure, but what's the fuel?
The fuel is data.
Of course.
It all comes back to data.
I mean, in the digital age, data is king.
Data is king. And they're very clear that you can't treat data as an afterthought.
Right.
It has to be the foundation of your digital transformation.
It's the lifeblood. It's what makes everything run.
Exactly. You need to understand your data. You need to make sure that it's high quality and that it's easy to access.
Clean it up, organize it, make sure it's accurate. You
That's
don't
right.
want to be working with bad data.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly.
So you got to have a good foundation.
And and they actually talk about in the book different ways of structuring your data.
Yeah.
Like they have this idea of a data lake or a data mesh.
That's right. Chapter 26.
I mean, it gets really in depth
It does.
about choosing the right architecture for your needs.
Because one size doesn't fit all
Exactly.
when it comes to data.
And they also talk about data governance.
Oh, so important.
They actually have a whole chapter on that, chapter 27.
They do, yeah.
And, because it's one thing to have data, but
You got to govern it.
you got to govern it. You can't just let it run wild.
It's like a car without brakes.
Right, exactly.
You're going to crash.
You're going to crash. Okay, so now we have the team, we have the structure, we have this fuel, which is the data.
Yes.
What are we missing?
You're missing the most important part.
Which is
Adoption.
Ah.
You can have the most amazing digital solution in the world.
Right.
But if nobody uses it, it's useless.
And they say that?
Oh, yeah. Section 6 of the book.
Okay.
It's all about adoption. And they talk about how you need to tackle it from two angles.
Okay.
First of all, you need to make sure that the solution you're implementing is user-friendly.
Easy to use.
Easy to use, and that it actually solves a real problem for the people who are going to be using it every day.
Because if it's clunky and it doesn't actually do what they need it to do,
They're not going to use it.
they're going to find a workaround.
Absolutely. And then the second thing is business model adaptation.
Okay.
So how are you going to change your processes and your structures to support this new solution?
All right.
Because you can't just implement a new piece of technology in a vacuum.
Right. It has to integrate.
It has to integrate with everything else you're doing.
And I think they have this really cool example of this commercial airline
Oh, yeah.
that implemented a new revenue management solution for their cargo business.
In chapter 28.
Yes. And it's interesting because they didn't just give their employees this new software.
Yeah.
They actually revamped their training program.
They did their homework.
Yeah, they changed their pricing strategies, even the way that they were collaborating with other departments.
It really was a holistic approach.
It was a transformation.
It was, and I think that's what a lot of people miss. They think digital transformation is just about implementing a new piece of technology, and it's not.
Right.
It's a fundamental shift.
It's mindset.
Exactly.
It's a way of thinking.
It is, and it's a willingness to change everything.
Yeah, and to really embrace that change.
Absolutely. Because if you're not comfortable with change, you're going to get left behind.
And that's what this whole book is about,
Yeah,
is not getting left behind.
It's about getting ahead.
It's about winning.
Exactly.
It's like we've gone to digital transformation school today, but I always say the best way to really learn something is to see it in action. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Experience is the best teacher.
And that's where I think the last section of this book really shines.
Yeah.
Because it's all these case studies
The case studies are where the rubber really hits the road, right?
Exactly. It's like, okay, you've told me all this great stuff. Now show me how it actually works.
Yeah, you see how these companies actually put these principles into practice.
Yeah, and you see the results.
Exactly.
So one that I thought was really interesting was Freeport-McMoRan.
Okay, yeah, the mining company.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't always think of mining when you think of cutting-edge AI.
No, not typically.
But they were facing this challenge, which is how do you increase efficiency and safety in your operations?
Right, it's a dangerous business.
Yeah, and they were like, maybe AI can help us solve this.
So what do?
So they started by implementing an AI solution at one of their mines, just as like a pilot program.
Okay.
And they basically trained this AI to analyze data from their operations.
They make it work for them.
Yeah, and to look for patterns and try to figure out how they could optimize everything.
Interesting. So what kind of results did they see?
So they saw a huge increase in their throughput. They were recovering more copper. Their operations were more stable.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah, and the coolest part, they were then able to scale that AI solution across all their mines globally.
Wow, so they didn't just keep it in one place.
No, they were like, we need to roll this out everywhere.
But I bet that wasn't easy.
No, because every mine is different, right?
Every mine has different ores, different equipment, different environments.
But here's the key. They were prepared.
Okay.
They had already invested in building a really robust data infrastructure.
Oh, so they had the foundation.
Yeah, they had that strong foundation in place, and they also had a great team of data scientists and engineers.
Yeah, you got to have the people.
You got to have the people who can actually make this stuff work.
Make it work.
So this Freeport story to me just really highlights that, like, no matter what industry you're in,
Yeah.
digital transformation can have a huge impact.
Absolutely. And speaking of impact, the DBS case study is another great example.
Oh yeah, DBS, the bank.
The bank, chapter 34.
And their whole thing was about culture and talent.
Right. They really focused on the people side of things.
Because they realized that to really become a digital leader, it wasn't just about implementing new tech.
Yeah, it was about changing the way they worked.
It was about changing the culture.
They went all in on agile.
Which is interesting for a bank.
Right. You don't think of banks as being very agile?
No, but they were like, we need to be more experimental. We need to be more innovative.
We need to empower our employees.
Yes, give them the freedom to experiment, to try new things, to maybe even fail sometimes.
Yeah, create a safe space for failure.
Because that's how you learn, right?
Exactly. You learn from your mistakes.
And they didn't just say, oh, we'll just outsource all this tech stuff.
No, they brought it in-house.
70% of their tech talent is in-house.
That's a bold move.
And they invested heavily in training and development.
They were serious about it.
Yeah, they were like, we are becoming a tech company.
And it paid off.
It did. They saw a huge improvement in their customer experience.
Yeah, they were able to launch all these new digital products and services.
And streamline their operations.
So it was a win-win.
It was, and it all goes back to that idea of culture and talent.
You can't just throw technology at a problem.
You got to have the right people in place.
The right people and the right mindset.
And then the Lego case study.
Oh, Lego. Everyone loves Lego.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about their story is that they really wanted to stay true to their core values.
Which are?
Creativity and imagination.
Of course.
So they were like, okay, we need to embrace digital transformation.
Right. The world is changing.
Yeah, we don't want to lose sight of who we are.
Right. So they had to find that balance.
Yeah, and they really saw technology as an opportunity to create a more engaging experience.
How so?
So they did things like online shopping, interactive play apps.
Right. So they're not just selling physical Legos anymore.
No, they've created this whole digital world.
Which makes sense. Kids today spend a lot of time online.
And they brought in a new chief digital and technology officer. They went on a recruiting spree. They adopted Agile.
Wow. They went all in.
They were serious about this.
And it worked.
Yeah, they created this seamless digital experience for their customers.
It's amazing what you can do when you have the right team and the right vision.
And when you're not afraid to embrace change, it's really amazing to see how these companies took these ideas and actually made them work.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway here is that there's no magic formula.
Right.
Like what worked for Freeport might not work for Lego.
Right. Every company's different.
Every company's different, so you got to figure out what works for you.
So if we were to distill this book down into I don't know, a shot of espresso.
Okay, I like that.
What are the key takeaways?
What do you need to know to go out and actually do this?
Yeah. What do you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest thing is that digital transformation, it's not a one-time thing.
Okay.
It's not like you just check it off your list and you're done.
All right.
It's a journey.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing. You're constantly learning. You're constantly adapting.
Where the technology is always changing.
Exactly. And the world is changing.
So you got to be ready to change with it.
Exactly. Embrace the change.
And I think the Freeport example really highlights that.
How so?
Because they are able to do these amazing things with AI.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about the AI.
Right.
It was about the fact that they were prepared.
They had the data.
They had the data, they had the team.
The team.
And they were willing to experiment.
They were willing to try new things. And that's key.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay. I like questions.
What seemingly impossible problem in your industry could be solved with the power of digital transformation?
That's a good one to ponder.
Yeah, think big.
Don't be afraid to think big.
Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
And remember, the future is digital.
It's already here.
It is.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
This was fun.